Welcome into Starting Nine here on the Five Reasons YouTube channel. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick at Five Reasons Sports. My producer today is Manny Chang. We're going to talk Heat today. Before we do, I want to introduce you to our two sponsors of this program. Our friend Danny, huge Miami Heat fan. I'm sure he'll catch up with the episode later today. Over at All Pro Construction Builders. Check them out on Instagram. It's All Pro Construction Builders. They're based down here in South Florida. They can service all of the counties down here, all the way down to Monroe. You can reach Danny at 305-484-4429, All Pro Construction Builders. Get your windows done now. If you own a house, you do not want it to be blown away, right? Deal with the insurance company and all that stuff. Be proactive. Reach out to them. It's a great family-owned business. They're fully certified, fully licensed. They have great reviews. And Danny's a huge Miami Heat fan, so he was asking me about buyouts all of last week. So reach out to our guy, Danny. Work with a family business down here, not a big operation that's going to forget about you, put you on hold, all that kind of stuff. When are you showing up? When are you not showing up? No, you want to get your windows done correctly. And here's the best part. If you mention 5 reasons, you get those storm windows and everything else done for 10% off. So mention 5 reasons to Danny. And again, mention All Pro Construction Builders. Also sponsored by friends over at PrizePicks. NBA season's coming back. And right now they've got the second half props on there, and they've got some really, really reasonable ones there. I don't know if you want to go over or under on how many 10-point games PJ Tucker's going to have. The number is half of a game. Half. Well, so 1, basically. If he has 1, if you go over, you win. If you don't think he's going to have any, you go under. Those are the kind of props they got on there on PrizePicks. Download it from prizepicks.com. Google Play Store, Apple App Store, and you get it for free. And again, if you but if you enter our promo code 5, FIVE, get that initial deposit matched for up to $100. All right, let's get to it here. Kevin Love is officially going to be a member of the Miami Heat here. There may be a press conference as we go forward. This comes in from Leonard. How do you know there'll be a second-round exit? I'm putting all these comments in my head because I'm going to get to these as we go forward. Manny's going to be putting them up. We will try to answer as many as we possibly can. I was just actually on with the Jeff DeForest show, so that'll post here later as well, and I address some of this stuff, but we'll handle it here. Kevin Love and Cody Zeller are in. It appears that Orlando Robinson will just be held in the two-way spot for now. They got, I think, 9 more games with him before they would need to convert him, so they don't need to do anything right now. They've stayed under the tax. Of course, they resume their season later this week with a 3-game road trip, and then they have a 6-game homestand, all against East teams that are currently in the playoffs, and with the exception, I guess, of Atlanta, all above them. Okay, so they're either all in the playoffs or the play-in. So this is going to be a test here coming up over the next few games. And as I was talking about this stuff with Defo and Luby, I was kind of processing in my head, and I'm starting to come around to the idea that Eric Spoelstra may make more than one change to the starting lineup. And the reason that I say, I don't know that for sure, but I'm open to it, and the possibility now. And the reason I say that is he doesn't typically like to do these things piecemeal. He has kind of an extended break with the team. I think they're going to come back and have a couple of practices before they play again. So as they incorporate Kevin Love and obviously Cody Zeller kind of at the back end of the rotation, it may be easier if Victor Oladipo is healthy, and of course Kyle Lowry is not ready to come back at this stage. It may be easier to try to make a double change here. And I know Brady's talked about this, and the more that I think about it, it may make some sense. I've liked Gabe Vincent as a starter. I think he can be a starter. I don't know if it'd be detrimental to his confidence at this point to pull him out as a starter. He has played pretty well down the stretch. He's not perfect as a point guard, but he gives you a lot of those kind of Mario Chalmers things where he can play on the ball, off the ball. He can defend at the point of attack. But if you really want to juice the starting lineup, is it possible, if he's healthy, that you could put Oladipo in it with Love and make the changes at once? And the reason I think that Spoelstra may consider this is because, A, Gabe Vincent is not a pure point guard anyway. I mean, not that much more than Victor Oladipo is. Vic played point guard as a rookie in Orlando. But also, adding Kevin Love, you're adding another guy. If you're going to start him, you're adding another guy that you can play through in the starting lineup. Obviously, he's not going to bring the ball up the court, but you can run offense through Kevin Love. So essentially, you can run offense through Bam. You can run offense through Kevin, and you can initiate offense with Bam. You can run offense through Love. You can initiate offense and run offense with Jimmy. You can initiate offense and to a certain degree, although you don't want all the ISOs, run offense with Depot. You may be able to package, and obviously Tyler, you can do both. you may be able to say we don't really need a point guard. I mean, they didn't have a point guard 2 years ago. Remember, they experimented a little with Tyler, and they kind of went through the whole season without a starting point guard because they were using Kendrick Nunn for the most part, who was not a point guard in it really anyway. And then they ended up bringing Dragic, into the mix later on as a starter in the bubble. But they went through the season without a pure point guard. They could do that again. And again, they don't really have a pure point guard without Kyle Lowry. And I know there was a report, Barry said that he's trying to work things out and to come back towards the end of February. And there's really dual things here. There's the knee and the hamstring and the injury stuff, but there's also just working things out in terms of role and I think commitment to the cause is the way it was described to me. So, have they patched those things over the All-Star break? I mean, apparently if they put out something through Barry, some of that has been patched. So we'll see what comes, forward, as we go forward. But even so, you're looking at a couple of weeks before he's back, and probably, maybe not, certainly not until the homestand starts, and maybe sometime into it. So let's just look at it this way. Let's say that they are comfortable with their guards, which I think them bringing Kevin Love, but not just Kevin Love, but also Cody Zeller at a time where Orlando Robinson was playing minutes and you've got Yurt coming back at some point. If you have all of those bigs, like a team that suddenly didn't have any bigs and all those bigs, and you still added Cody Zeller, you're basically saying you're comfortable with your guards, right? So you're comfortable that Oladipo is going to come back healthy and that you've given him this extended rest. And you're comfortable that you're going to get something out of Kyle Lowry. So let's extrapolate that further. Let's say that you start Oladipo. And let's say you start Oladipo again with Love, Bam, Jimmy, and Tyler. Well, then what is your bench? Okay, your bench then becomes Gabe, Kyle. Okay, I'm not sure I love that. But because I think Kyle and Vic may be a better fit off the bench, but let's just say Strus, right? Caleb. So Caleb and Strus basically become your backup forwards. And then essentially it's Zeller or Yurt, right, as your backup five, probably ahead of Orlando Robinson. So you actually go at that stage, you kind of go 10 deep. You're not counting on Duncan except as a shooting specialist. And that's if Strus is struggling. So that could be the way you go. And until Kyle gets back, well, actually, it sort of works out a little bit easier, which is why, again, I don't necessarily see a clear role for Kyle. But let's just say before Kyle comes back, you're going Gabe, Strus, Martin at the more comfortable 3 spot, and then some big, whether it's Zeller or Yurt at the 5. Because Spoelstra would prefer to play 9. We know that. And then he tends to shrink it sometimes to 8 in the postseason. So, again, I think you can make a case that if you are going to put Caleb back on the bench, which gives you more versatility. He's not a primary scorer, but he gives you more versatility. And you've got Strus on the bench, and we know that Martin and Strus have a comfort level together. And you put Gabe on the bench. Well, now you've got the 3 former two-ways, all of whom have a very good personal relationship with each other and had chemistry together. You get Gabe and Caleb playing together consistently, but off the bench. We know that at the point of attack, doubles, traps, and all that stuff, that they can be very effective. You get Strus playing off of them. I mean, your bench doesn't look so bad then, right? Like, I mean, you could put Oladipo in the starting lineup, and you're bringing basically energy off the bench. You're bringing energy with Vincent, Martin, and Strus, and then you're big. And the thing about Cody Zeller is he's going to stay out of the way. Like, I saw Simon Smith posted this. His per minute rebounds over the past 3 years are the same as Kevin Love. He's 11.5 per 36 minutes. So he's going to set screens. He's going to pass. He's going to pass pretty well. He's not an elite athlete. We know that. And he has some limitations defensively because of that, as does Kevin Love. And I do think that Heat fans, and I said this on 5 on the Floor yesterday, I think Heat fans have to be prepared for the fact that Kevin Love's going to frustrate the hell out of them defensively. He just is. There is this perception that I think, and again, I don't want to make this a race thing here, but this is one of those like unsubtle biases or subtle biases. It's become an unsubtle bias in basketball where we say that like every white player is good defensively, positionally. I don't know when this started. It's kind of like how every white wide receiver is gritty and gutty. Kevin Love is not great positionally defensively. I watched it. I was in Cleveland for a year in 14-15. Now, that is 8 years ago. Kevin Love was a much better player at that point. He was often in the wrong place. This was this was when LeBron still kind of cared about defense, and he was immensely frustrated by it. So I think that we need to kind of back off of this idea that he's going to be, anything but a slight negative defensively. I think if he's that, you'll take it. You're not bringing him in for that. You're going to have to cover for him at times. He's not a rim protector. His career, in terms of the perception of him defensively, in my view, kind of got saved by one miraculous sequence against Steph Curry in the finals out on the perimeter. So I don't think that he's going to add much on that end. I think that what you're looking for from Kevin Love is 37 to 38% three-point shooting on reasonably high volume. Spoelstra will unleash him from three. He will, especially from the corners. But Kevin's good from the wings also. He did shoot 35.5% this year, was down, but he's been in that 38 to 41% range over the past few seasons. He can shoot the ball still, and he can still rebound. Still has a knack for rebounding. Again, he never relied heavily on athleticism. He had that huge 3 game against the Heat. I think it was last season. So it's not that far away. So offensively, I do think he's going to be a plus for them. I think he's going to create some triggers for them. So he's going to get them to some sets, some dribble handoff stuff that Spoelstra likes to run that he doesn't really run as much because he's not using Duncan, anywhere near the way he used to or as much as he used to. So there are some things to like here, I think, in terms of Kevin Love offensively, but just be prepared for the defense. They're going to have to cover for him. This is not going to make. I don't think there's this perception that getting Caleb out of the starting lineup because of his size is going to help the Heat defensively. It's not. Because Caleb was covering up for a lot of problems in terms of being able to cover guards. And that's another reason why, I think that a complete shuffle of the starting lineup, obviously with the exception of the top 3, might make sense here. Because one of the reasons that Caleb had to start was because Lowry couldn't guard the point of attack. So Martin was guarding the point of attack. And that's why, and it frustrated Heat fans, but this was the only way to play because Kyle's actually pretty good at guarding up. And so you had Lowry guarding forwards and you had Caleb guarding guards, right? Well, with Lowry not in the starting lineup, if you're starting Gabe or Vic, okay, they're going to guard the point of attack. They're good at it. And so the Heat are going to be more traditional defensively. They're also traditional in the sense of when they play man. But they're also, as Brady talked about, they're going to play more zone to protect Kevin Love. So I'm curious to see how that works with Bam. He covers up for a lot of people. This is something I'm so sick of watching Lowry guard centers. Well, you're not going to see that very much anymore. Now, you're going to get frustrated with Kevin Love guarding centers too, but it's a different kind of frustration, right? Other people say they're just sick of watching Lowry. I feel like the Heat have an opportunity here with the way that Gabe was playing prior to the break. And if Vic comes back, they've got an opportunity to not need Kyle Lowry to come back strong. It would be helpful if he gave them good minutes the rest of the season because you always want another body at guard, and you never know if he's going to have a throwback game. But you don't want to need to count on him in any particular way going forward. You just don't. But I do think that if you can make 2 changes to the starting lineup here, it might be worth looking at rather than making one and then trying to make another. But again, the point is if you're trying to sort of explain to Kyle what his role is going to be going forward, it's easier if you're winning. If you make the changes now, and let's say that a new lineup with Love and Oladipo as the other pieces, let's say that clicks, or even if it's Love or Vincent and that clicks. Well, then whenever it is that Kyle comes back, it's like, okay, we're going to slot you back in off the bench. And I also think that could be something that rejuvenates Lowry because he has played very well with the G League guys in the past. The problem seemed to be integrating him with Hero and the starters, and this connection that was supposed to have developed between him and Jimmy never really happened. It just never really happened. Their numbers together are okay. More of an eye test thing for me maybe, but it wasn't this great connection that we expected, I don't think. Their friendship doesn't seem to translate, which is real, doesn't seem to translate in terms of what they do together on the floor. And I think the best example of it translating was that Game 6 against Boston last year. But other than that, we just haven't seen it a whole lot. All right, Manny, if you have a chance, we'll put up a couple more comments here. I do want to mention a couple sponsors. All Pro Construction Builders, of course, Prize Picks. Use the code 5. New episode we did, if you want more than just me, Brady, me, Greg, and Alex all got all excited for the all intangibles lineup, Ethan. Well, I mean, that's basically what we're looking at here at this point. It's just hopefully it's not the all overpay lineup at some point. We did a playback episode last night. At some point, we're going to get you clips from those, but we hung out during the All-Star game during the first half. We are going to do playback again this Friday. Make sure you signed up. It's free. The link is up on the top of the 5 Reasons Sports Twitter page. We're going to do those over as many games as we can. So we're still going to keep doing pregame, postgame, spaces between game and all that. We're going to do those as well. Because how would Hero, Martin, Jimmy Love, and Bam sound? Well, would that work? It would have size to that extent. That's interesting. Again, if you're going to say you don't need a playmaker, I'm just wondering what the bench looks like then. I feel like one thing that could really help the bench is to have Caleb coming off with energy like he did last season and being a Swiss Army knife type. This is one of those situations where a guy getting benched is not his fault. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's just for the betterment of the team. Excuse me. I feel like it's for the betterment of the team, and I feel like Caleb would get it. And he hasn't been comfortable playing the 4. That lineup is interesting. Like you said, it does not have a true point guard. It would put the ball in Tyler's hands a whole lot more. I don't know how Heat fans feel about that. He's progressed as a ball handler. Do you want him being the primary ball handler as opposed to maybe Vic being a primary ball handler with him? Because Caleb's not going to be that. So that's the other way to look at it. Yes, gives you a little bit more size, but Vic can guard up and Gabe guards up a little bit. So I don't know necessarily that having Caleb in there with a 2-inch, difference makes a huge difference. All right, let's get to one more here. Again, we're trying to do these 20 minutes and out, give you something at the start of the day. We'll do more. Obviously, Alex Dono Daly going to be here 3 times this week as well. This guy said, why haven't we heard from Riley? I feel like he normally speaks by now. That's very interesting. He was quoted in an article about Bam for the Herald, but he's not made himself available on any transaction stuff. It does usually happen at some point. He either usually speaks at like the gala, which he did not, or we're coming up on when they usually have the Heat Family Fest, which they got rid of for a couple of years because of COVID, but I believe it's coming back this year. I've not heard an announcement on when that is. My guess was it was going to be March because they've got the long homestand, but I haven't heard about it. Typically, Pat will address things at that point, but to this point has not. He used to, I can tell you from being when I was a primary beat guy, he used to hold a conference call with beat guys if he didn't make a trade on the deadline. Nothing this year. So he has been out of pocket. And look, I got to be fair on this because I've always been very critical of Chris Greer for not speaking to the media for the Dolphins. I do think it's time for Pat to talk. I made that known inside the organization. I don't think they're going to listen to me, but I think the fans want to hear from Pat at this point. And now this presents an opportunity because the Kevin Love signing presents an opportunity to do more than just send a press release. So to me, look, whatever Kevin Love is or isn't, and I always made the case he wasn't Bosch and that he was overrated and all the rest of this. I'm not going to take back any of those things I said. He's still a borderline Hall of Famer. I mean, you look at his numbers, you look at the Basketball Reference projections on him, they project him as a Hall of Famer. Okay? So, and he has a championship. He's a significant enough acquisition for Pat Riley to be sitting with him at the days, in my view. So we'll see if that happens when he's introduced. And now they are going on the road, but they've got a couple practices before they go on the road. They're going to practice. I'm sure they're going to practice a couple of times. So we'll see what happens. All right. Thanks to everybody. Thanks to Manny. Check out the rest of the content here on the channel. Make sure you hit like and subscribe. We are happy because there's something to talk about. We have struggled, I would say, over the past 4 or 5 months to generate content because this team felt stale. I don't believe, and I said this earlier, and this answers the question, I don't believe this raises their ceiling significantly. But I do think it probably keeps them out of the play-in, which was a goal of theirs. And it gives them a reasonable shot, if they can kind of catch fire with it, to maybe get to 5. And if they're really lucky, get to 4. So it gives us something to talk about, and we will talk about it to death, I'm sure. All right, thanks to everybody. Prize Picks, use that code FIV. That is Maddie's sign that he's got to go to work. Get the hell out of here, Ethan. Have a good day, everybody.